We're two hitchhikers. We met while hiking Mount Baldy with mutual friends, wasted no time, got engaged on a frozen alpine lake, got hitched, and have been adventuring together since. We're embarking on a new adventure of living big in a tiny home. Let's see how this goes.
Adventure awaits.
In our last video, we shared with you the first portion of our Pan-American road trip through Mexico. In this video, we'll be covering our Guatemalan experience. We do provide quite a bit of details on the border crossing itself at the end of this video, so if you would like more information on that, please be sure to watch through to the end. The first place we come through is the border village called El Ceibo. Our journey has brought us down here during the rainy season, and the border agents did warn us of potential delays and road closures.
You think this is still a road?
Yeah, of course it is. If there's a guy on a motorcycle, for sure.
What we noticed right away was that motorcycles and scooters are everywhere. Tuk-tuks are also used everywhere. And as many people as possible will fit into the back of a truck in order to get from point A to point B. We were even surprised to see pine trees on the side of this particular road, even though we were not at high elevations at this point. And of course, we experienced heavy bouts of intermittent rain.
Parqueo Tortuga. Ahí vamos entrando ahorita.
Sí, así es, ahí está.
Perfecto. ¿Y dónde me estaciono?
Ahí creo que no sé si tenemos espacio disponible. Son dos hangares que nosotros alquilamos, pero
Pues-
creo que ahí sí tenemos espacio disponible.
Hotel Tortugal is located on the northern side of the Rio Dulce, which means Sweet River. However, this hotel is not accessible by roads, so the only way to get there is to park in their parking lot on the south side of the river and be ferried by boat to the hotel itself.
The class to go back to when they could have been 5 minutes. He's trying to study like a moment as well.
Still good, still good.
Where's my helmet?
Él se llama García.
Garcia?
Sí, otro Pablo.
¿Qué onda, Garcia?
Did you find a good catch?
Yeah, we did.
Is the kitchen closed?
No.
So if we go to the room and come back, we can eat? Perfect.
Wonderful.
Pretty incredible. After a full day of road tripping, we were so excited to partake in the full-service restaurant that the hotel provided. Not to mention the extra personable hospitality provided to us by Angela, who, by the way, happened to sail here all the way from South Africa. We retired to our rooms just before an evening thunderstorm passed over our area.
So how's the coffee?
Excelente.
It's good.
Guatemala so far has been an amazing
You gotta come here.
experience.
Seriously.
This is Rio Dulce.
So nice.
And this is it's like a,
It's a river that turns into a lake that goes into another river. The same river.
but it's a port into the ocean. So
Yeah.
a lot of boats that are at sea,
They come here
they come
to
here
avoid the
for a
hurricanes.
safe haven, yes. When there's a lot of crazy weather.
Yeah.
Ready to rock and roll?
Let's go.
Alright, we're eating Rio Dulce. Incredible place. Puppy.
Bye, puppy.
Although there was some noticeable flooding all along the sides of the highways, we were fortunate enough to not have any major road issues all along the way. Guatemala is a picturesque country with very friendly people, and we definitely want to come back and spend more time here. But for now, we have the focus of getting to the Honduras border. We know this process looks intimidating because there are so many trucks that can actually be miles long. But the standard procedure for passenger vehicles is to drive on the wrong side of the road as safely as possible to bypass all of these and get to the borderline. All right. So we have notes here because going through multiple countries within 7 days, all of the border crossings become quite a blur. So we look back at photos, receipts, and whatnot, just to make sure that the information we're providing you here is accurate, just in case you're watching this for research on how to do your own Pan-American trip from Mexico into Central America. So we were in Palenque and we decided we're gonna not go through the more busy border crossing of Guatemala that takes you to Guatemala City. We're gonna do a newer one called El Ceibo, which is more in the rural area of Guatemala, but it's not as busy. So
Not busy at all.
yeah, it was great. So when we first got to the border, we had to pass a line of trucks, but it wasn't anything crazy. They head to the right, and we have to go into the customs area on the left for regular vehicles and tourists. It was a little confusing, but we figured it out. And initially, we went directly into the customs office, the aduanas office, and we checked out our vehicles.
Correct.
And they did a vehicle inspection,
Yep.
and upon approval for everything, then they authorized us to get our tax back.
Correct.
So we used a credit card, so that was an easy process. We did not have to worry about getting cash of any kind.
Yeah. So once you leave the aduanes, you go to the checkout where they stamp you out of Mexico.
It's a little interview process,
Yeah.
one at a time, standard questions, your
Do you like the mole?
nationality. Do you like the mole? Did you get that question?
Yes. He was holding my passport. And he was like, so how's the mole? I'm like, good. Yes, here you go. I'm like, all right.
So then once you go through your personal customs, you get your approved exit stamp. We got back in the car and we drove about 20 yards, if
Yeah.
that, to the first border checkpoint. And there's a big Bienvenidos sign. So
Yep.
now you're in
Can't
Guatemalan
miss it.
territory. Yes. And there's a guard standing there, and he asks for your passports. So you hand him your passports, and he is looking for the approval stamp that you could leave the country of Mexico, even though you just came out of the building 20 yards away.
Yeah.
And then he directs us to park, go a little further, drive another 20, 30 feet, park on the left side of the road, and then go in that building over there, which
Yep.
is their aduanas, their customs.
Yeah. You have to stamp in to Guatemala. So you go into a little like building up a small little hill. It's really easy to get to. Then you stamp into Guatemala.
And you have to pay a per person tax of $9 US. We were able
Yeah,
to pay,
yeah. It was
we were able
$9.
to pay in American cash at that
Correct.
point. So once they stamp you in, they ask you the usual questions: why are you traveling? What are you doing? Why are you driving? Then we just tell them we're on the
Do you
epic
like
road
sopes?
trip. Okay.
I like sopes.
You get your stamp of approval to enter the country, but then you have to go through the process to import the car. And this is where it becomes
Fun.
fun. So you go out of this one particular building and you go into the building you just passed on the way in. And that's like a shipping container, portable type thing. You go up the little stairs, it is air conditioned inside, and you start the vehicle import process.
Correct. So you need a copy of your title. You need a copy of your registration, yes. And then from there, you also need a copy of your passport, ID, and the, they didn't hand us a custom form, did they?
They did.
Ah,
So
yes.
we already had copies made. We have to show the originals to them, and they want copies. So most people who don't have copies pre-made, they allow you to go walk into the little border town because you have been approved to enter the country, but the vehicle has not.
Correct.
So they want to see the originals, but then you have copies of all of these documents. And the one copy that we didn't have prior to this was the declaration paper.
Yes.
So we had to provide a copy of that.
Yes.
And the car tax had to be paid in the local currency,
Yes.
which are quetzales, Guatemalan quetzales.
Mm-hmm.
So Ruben and Jimmy walked into the little border town, pulled out money at the ATM, and they do
Yeah.
have an exchange thing there.
Well,
too.
no. So we had a lot of pesos at the time. So we used our pesos. Now, pesos conversion into quetzales was supposed to be 28, but because these are the mean streets, our exchange rate was 46, which was pretty much double. So it cut what we had in half, but thankfully we still had enough to pretty much pay for what we needed and still had enough left over for quetzales for us to buy sopes.
So then, once they got the currency they needed, I stayed with the vehicles. Then they walked back to the aduanas office, paid the fee. Then you both essentially were approved for your vehicles.
Correct.
So Jimmy was able to go to the next part, which is where they spray your car with pesticides.
Correct.
And he waited for us on the opposite end. You had an issue with paperwork that they had to redo.
Correct. Well, actually, it wasn't even an issue with the paperwork. It's just that, okay, so though is in the vehicle check-in spot. Super cool dude. That boy can talk. His wife is from the States, and he is trying his best to practice his English and actually like get things going. And he has such an interesting conversation. And then all of a sudden people show up and it just turns into a big conversation. Everyone's talking about the roads and food and all this other stuff.
Because the roads washed out.
Yes, they
There's
did.
been a lot of rain. It is
Yes,
the rainy season.
and unfortunately,
as you can see.
there was a very bad flood in the general area where unfortunately 3 people lost their life. It was really, really bad flood. So they pretty much just have a big conversation. And then, in the middle of all that conversation, he found out that he accidentally put my registration information wrong. So
double check your paperwork because
yes.
now also the other vehicle, we didn't know this at the time, we didn't check the other vehicle and transposed a 3 and a 5, and we didn't realize this until we tried to exit Guatemala, and it became
Another video.
Yes, that's
The next video.
the next one. So just double check your paperwork for accuracy.
Yeah.
So all in all, I would say the Guatemalan border crossing, the customs agents, they were pleasant. I mean,
super cool.
Very, very,
Not once did you feel threatened. They're very accommodating.
yeah, very nice.
Like of course we speak Spanish, so it was easier for us. But there's a commonality with all border agents that if you speak Chinese, Dutch, they'll work with you. Everyone's very, very accommodating there.
Now, here's one other thing about the vehicles is that we read that Guatemala does require auto insurance. However,
I was very happy to just speak English and forgot to ask.
so
Better to ask for permission than forgiveness. So, well, other way around, right? There you go.
well, you
Forgiveness
can
and
do it
permission.
either way.
Hey, but she has me trained where I ask for permission before forgiveness. And so wires are crossed.
So we arrived at the border at just before 10 o'clock and we exited just before 1 p.m. So
2 hours.
3 hours.
Mm.
So that was,
This conversation would have cut that into 2 hours.
so that wasn't the worst border crossing.
No, not at all. It was actually one of the best. Top 2.
So you made it this far.
We really appreciate you watching all of this, and hopefully you got some great information from this video and our experience. Our next stops are Honduras and Nicaragua, so be sure to check back next Sunday.
Yes, Nicaragua is going to be a fun story.
That might be a video all on its own.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Adventure.
Awaits.
Yeah.